Okay, guys, so Chris Mannix podcast today. It's like 2 hours or something. I haven't listened to it. Hour and 20 minutes. But we got the full quotes from it, and I will be listening later. Okay? And it's pretty big news. Stuff I've already talked about in great detail, right? Here we go. Kyrie Irving can be a free agent in 2019, and the Celtics may retain Terry Rozier until they receive a commitment from Irving. Rozier is scheduled to be a restricted free agent in 2019. Chris Mannix says, I think the Celtics are scared. I think they're scared and should be scared to some degree of Kyrie Irving walking in 2019. I know he had a great year, but you know there are people in Cleveland that will tell you that the Knicks should be considered a real threat for Kyrie Irving. I've talked about this, right, guys? Because Kyrie had talked about it, about playing with the Knicks, and talked about it with some of the players in the locker room, from what I had heard, what I was told. Okay, and we know that the Knicks were on Kyrie's short list, right? Along with the Spurs and the Wolves and a couple other teams. Kyrie Irving, a kid who grew up with the Knicks as his favorite team. Probably had Eddie Curry posters on his wall or something like that. Jerome James, right? Maybe Tyson Chandler. But that's his home team all his life, and his father lives right across the river. Kyrie grew up right across the river, and that's his home team, guys. It's kind of like if Kyrie Irving was from Boston, we wouldn't be worried about him leaving next year, would we? Unless we wanted to, because he's overrated and overpaid. We don't want to overpay him, and he's totally injury prone, and he's not a team player, and all this stuff we talked about in great detail. Let's keep going. Chris Mannix says, you know things can change. Obviously, you go to Boston and you become the face of the franchise. You're on a winning team. Maybe the mindset has changed significantly. All right. And Shams Charania from Yahoo Sports replied to Mannix's assertion with the expectation from Irving that he would be with the Celtics over the long term. Shams says, I know Kyrie Irving's mindset when the trade happened was Boston is my home for the foreseeable future. But, Shams, the problem being, that's what every player would say. They're not going to say, yeah, I'm going to be real flaky and I don't really like the Celtics and I'm just dragging my feet and going there. And I hope that the fans boo me every time they see me, and I hope they demand that I be traded, to the Orlando Magic for whatever they can get because they know that my heart's not in it here, okay? So, of course, Kyrie Irving is going to say that. And yes, he's in a good situation in Boston, but the other big problem is that as David Griffin, the former general manager of the Cavs, has said since leaving that position, he says Kyrie Irving is a guy who gets bored and restless very easily. All right? And his father is like that too. His father is always in Kyrie's ear saying, never settle, always complaining about the franchise that Kyrie's on, with a long list of microaggressions and other forms of disrespect, right? And always saying that there's a bigger pie in the sky. There's always, the grass is always greener, even when you're in the green city of Boston. And so, and Kyrie Irving, we already know, was talking with his teammates about dreaming about being on the Knicks, his hometown team, playing in the Mecca, Madison Square Garden, the media center of the universe, as the uncontested alpha leader and 29, 30-point scorer of the Knicks. That's what Kyrie can be, a better version of Carmelo Anthony, or a more entertaining version of Carmelo Anthony, And for a lot of players, that's all they really want. Russell Westbrook, if you could give him the choice to go to San Antonio or the New York Knicks, he'd love to go to the Knicks. A lot of these guys would, and you'd be surprised, especially these younger guys, these big ego, big star, flashy guys. They love the bigger the limelight, the better. And the more attention and the more unchallenged they are for shot attempts and for dominance over a franchise, they just love that. That's what they live for, guys. That's what they absolutely live for. And that's part of the reason that Kyrie couldn't stand being in LeBron's shadow, because he knew damn well LeBron was the far superior player, that LeBron was the point guard, that it was LeBron's team, and that, it was all about LeBron. Well, Kyrie wants to go to a place where basically it's all about him, and maybe he'll share the spotlight with one other player. But he definitely wants to make his choice, his decision. And as Chris Mannix is talking about here, a lot of things I've already said, the Knicks being the hometown team, him wanting to be a Knick, and even talking with teammates about it, and the Celtics being nervous because, Kyrie Irving's not going to give him a commitment this summer. And, what do you do when your quote-unquote star player isn't giving you any kind of commitment, and he's got a flaky personality, and he lives in his own bubble dream world, and always has? A guy who walked away from his last city, throwing the entire city under the bus, just pissing off, unnecessarily alienating the entire city of Cleveland by telling them they weren't even a real sports city. After they showed out in the streets to cheer him on and celebrate with him and congratulate him for winning the NBA championship in 2016. So this is not a guy who forms close bonds with a fan base or even his teammates, guys. This is a guy whose close bond is with his father. He's always been a daddy boy. That's always been the source of his extreme immaturity, which we saw earlier in his career, but it's always been there. It's still there. And that's just who this guy is. It's him and his daddy against the world. And they want to have a franchise eating out of the palm of their hand, being wined and dined and recruited to a team, and to be given every promise, every special treatment that other players won't get, and to be the unchallenged leader of a team. And any team with any real leaders, Kyrie is not going to emerge as the real leader. And the YouTuber Chronicles of Judah or something, you know who I'm talking about? He starts every video by saying, "All right, man, peace." You know who I'm talking about? He makes some pretty good basketball videos. But in a video a few days ago, he was saying that he picked up on a sense that Kyrie Irving and Marcus Smart really conflicted. Okay, they really butt heads. And if you think about it, today the Players Association released what was voted league-wide as the team leader of all 30 teams, and it was Marcus Smart, who was recognized as the leader of the Celtics. It wasn't Kyrie Irving. Meanwhile, in Cleveland, it was LeBron James, So even when Kyrie goes to a new team, he's still not recognized as the leader of a team, And if you have any objectivity about it or any basic, psychological savvy, you know that Kyrie is not a natural leader at all. You know that in the playoffs last year, he was not even talking to any of his teammates. He wasn't even talking to his teammates, just standing in his own bubble. Then every 3 possessions, they give him the ball. He goes into tunnel vision mode and scores, and that's all he did. You know that when the coach told him to set up his teammates better, he said that's LeBron's job, right? So Marcus Smart, a guy who's very much a natural leader all his life, always been a very charismatic, forceful alpha leader of men. Kyrie Irving can only dream of that. So that could be one other source of contention, and he wouldn't have that challenge in a place like the New York Knicks. And then he could also even try to force a trade of Kristaps Porzingis to the Spurs for Kawhi Leonard next summer, So we know that Kyrie Irving's father and Kawhi Leonard's uncle are very close friends, and they live within 10-minute drive of each other in West Orange and South Orange, New Jersey, right across the river from Madison Square Garden. And they would love nothing more than to see Kawhi and Kyrie on the same team. And to do so in Madison Square Garden, it's got to be the family dream of that whole group of people, okay? So anyway, guys, just a little heads up. It's time to start getting real. It's time to get your heads out of the cloud. It's time to stop wearing your heart on the sleeve if you're a huge Kyrie fan and you're a Celtics fan, okay? It's not a marriage. He got traded here. By the time next season ends, it'll have been 2 years in Boston. That's a whole era for a lot of people, That's a whole era. And to think that a guy who gets bored very easily, a guy who never really gels with teammates or even a fan base like he did in Cleveland, never gelled, he's not going to have any loyalty to anybody here. And if he's already getting bored and restless, and he's already dreaming about the new chapter and the new challenge in a bigger media market like New York or Los Angeles or whatever he has in his mind, then why would he sign up for another 4 or 5 years? if he's already getting restless, you know? Anyway, guys, it's just food for thought. It's just basic psychology. Kyrie Irving is who he is, whether you want to acknowledge what he is or not. All right, guys, let me know what you think. I'll see you soon.